All right, people, welcome to another edition of the New Breed Show, the world's best music conversation, talking about everything brutal, new death, hard slam, grind, thrash, core metal. I am one half of your hosting duo, Jay Horsecow. With me, I have my partner in crime, the notorious TIM, Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how's it going?
Great. My hands are cracking. It's so cold in Pennsylvania.
Oh, it is a brutal one out there. And someone whose hopefully weather is better than ours, back with us again for a second time from across the pond, Mr. Nick Box. Nick, thanks for joining.
Hi, how's it going? All right. Yeah, glad to be back again.
We are glad to have you. So this episode was literally created by Nick. When we had him on the last time, we talked a lot about obscure nu metal, and he said you guys need to hear some of the obscure stuff that comes out of the UK. And he started rattling off easily a dozen bands that Tim and I kind of just looked at each other like, what? Who? Now. So what Nick did, and we're going to share these playlists with the show notes. He did half of a list on YouTube. He did a ginormous list on Spotify, and we're going to have Nick take us and us and you listeners, watchers, what have you, on a trip through the more obscure nu metal that did come out of the UK and Europe in the 90s. So I'll start off by saying, and I will admit to our listeners, you're going to see these giant playlists. I didn't get through all of them because I couldn't. There was Nick sent over a lot, but there were a lot of really good bands that I came away with. Like, I listened to it and I listened to it again. And then I pulled up Soulseek and I'm like, okay, where is this? Because I really need to download this and listen to it. There was some surprising stuff here, Nick. But so let's start by talking a little bit about the nu metal scene in the UK, the local nu metal scene is comparative to what Tim and I experienced here in the States. Yeah. Like, was it a big thing? Was it a long, slow burning thing? Can you give us an idea about what it was actually like?
It was actually, when it all kicked off, I lived near London, and I was a teenager and I was an hour away from London. So I was going to London every night, and the scene there was pretty huge. I mean, it was really in your face, and that's where we met all our friends and everyone that you'd see at the shows. Going to see bigger bands, the next night you go and see like the smaller bands. All of a sudden, those people, the faces you would see at the shows, would be supporting at the next show you went to. So it was a really big scene in London. Then I moved away about 2 years into it all. I moved to the southwest of the country, where things were a little slower paced. I mean, there was still the bands that were doing it and doing it well were still pulling some big crowds, but it was a bit of a culture shock to me, being near it every single night of the week, to move into somewhere where you're the last train home from the local city was like at 9 o'clock, so you'd miss the show and shit like that. But then I got involved in DJing and then obviously putting on gigs. So then I started getting involved with the bands myself, and obviously a lot of the bands from London that would come down. So we sort of rebooted the scene ourselves.
But did it sort of start in London, Nick, and then metastasize outwards? Like, was that ground zero?
Yeah, I think London was ground zero for it all, because obviously all the big bands were coming over. And the other thing that was happening a lot was a lot of the bigger labels were starting a lot of the American bands in London first. So, I mean, a lot of the American bands that were picked up, they would take them over to London, and they would give them big shows in London first, because obviously we had Kerrang as well. So like Kerrang and Metal Hammer, would quite often give away like sampler CDs. I mean, and there were so many of these sampler CDs out that you got to hear bands really a lot earlier. Like Slipknot first appeared on one 5 months before the album came out. So 5 months before the album came out, we had a copy of Eyeless. Eyeless was doing the rounds. The same with System of a Down. So there was a big buzz for getting these bands to do their first big shows really in London. So that obviously, again, like brought the whole sound to London. So then the scene grew up from around there. So yeah, a lot of the bands I'm going to be talking about today are London or that part of the country. But there was scenes in Manchester and Liverpool and the other cities as well. But obviously, the main bulk of it did come from like the London area.
So let me ask you this, Nick, and we're going to go through a bunch of these bands. Are the bulk of these London natives? Most
a lot of them, yeah. Some of them do branch out a bit. I mean, there are some that are from the rest of the country. I mean, then you had bands like, Breed 77, who I'm sure you've heard of, but I mean, Breed 77 were a London band, but I mean, they were actually from Gibraltar, okay. But they were living in London. Kill to This were a Manchester band, but they were always in London. So, you know, a lot of bands would gravitate to London still. But yeah, there's a bulk of it is in that sort of region. I wouldn't just say London, but London and surrounding areas.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where a lot of it came from.
Cool. So you know what? Being as Tim hasn't heard a lot of this, I think let's just jump in. I'm going to grab a song first.
Right.
This is one of the songs that actually stood out. Well, go on, Tim.
I'm sorry to cut you off. My bad. I meant to ask this and I kept forgetting. Are any of these bands like did you add in any like Ireland or Scotland or anything like that?
There's a couple. There's a couple. Yeah, there are a couple of there's one or two, I think, Irish bands in there.
Okay.
Not too sure about Scotland. There's a few Welsh as well, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Jay.
Like U2 shows up in the middle of the playlist. I'm reaching here, guys. I'm reaching. All right, let's start off with this band. I didn't hear them. Nick mentioned them the first time we had him on. Never heard them before. Sent this on the playlist, and I really enjoyed it. The song's name is Respect for Life. This is a band called Hybrid UK. Kind of original naming there. Let's give this one a whirl. Yeah, so that was kind of wild.
I fucking love that.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That was really fucking good.
my notes here, I'm like, my notes are the guy scats almost like dub war, right? Almost like a reggae, really fast tongue. But then the singing parts are like Morrissey. That was my note. And then I put the turntables and the scratching and the effects are kind of like an early pitch shifter left over. The bass is up in the mix. I think the drumming, some of the fills, when you hear the double bass runs and the fills, not something we heard in a lot of traditional nu metal. My final note was this is very aggressive and very different, but I really dig it. So what about these guys, Nick? What was the story? What happened? Where did they go? Hybrid
UK were like a cult band. When I say cult, I mean proper cult band. They only released a 4-track demo. That's all they released. And this demo is like rare as rocking horse shit. It's like in high demand. It's in high demand on Discogs. You can someone has put a whole rip of it on YouTube, but it's really hard to get. They were really popular in London, and then they got featured on this Metal Hammer CD, and that track, Respect for Life, was on there. When it dropped on this Metal Hammer CD, everybody in the whole country went sick for it. And it was like a really big track in all of the rock clubs up and down the whole country. And I mean, it still is now the places that play nu metal stuff. Like, I mean, I DJ nu metal. I DJ'd last week. I dropped it. People went crazy for it. It was a huge track, but sadly, they split before anything big happened with them. I found it through my nu metal group. We've been discussing them a lot because, I mean, they are really a huge cult band. So everyone loves them. It's on the UK scene. There was another band afterwards, different vocalist, but I think it was the same drummer and guitarist, I think. They were called The Mass, and they had a female singer. I've not actually heard them, but I know they've got an album. But a few friends have told me about them. But I mean, yeah, Hybrid UK, they were around for such a short time. when they played, they were insane. There are a fair few live videos knocking around on YouTube as well, which are definitely worth checking out, because I mean, their live show was crazy. I mean, they had so much energy, and like, you know, fans went nuts for them. But I mean, they, again, like, just a real cult band that got huge off of one demo. But yeah, you can find a demo on YouTube, and if you are wanting a decent quality version of that track, look out for the New Noise Inc. Volume 1 Metal Hammer CD. You can pick this up for a few pounds on eBay. I know quite a few people have grabbed it recently. So yeah, that was Hybrid UK.
That's kind of wild that they were obscure and only did 4 tracks, and yet I really, really enjoyed that.
And people still talk about them to this day. To this day, people still talk about them. You know, because it was so unique. It was the whole drum and bass thing. You know, it was like a drum and bass MC as a front man of a new metal band. You know, it's awesome. I mean, that bit at the end, we didn't get as far, obviously, with the preview, but when he's doing that, she was a liar, the girl, she was a liar, that bit, and he starts like proper. I mean, it's epic. It's just such an epic track. Really is.
Damn, it's not on Apple Music.
Yeah, I think, Tim, you're gonna need to we'll have to invest in the Spotify account, splitting it out even further so we to do it. Okay, so now I want to pick up on another band that I thought was also, this is one of the ones I flagged as one of my favorites. This one is called Vacant Stare. The album is Vindication, and the song is called Come Face Up. Here we go.
I've heard of this band, but never heard them.
Yeah, I think I had heard of this band. I just don't remember heard of the music.
Yep. I've got a lot to say about these guys. These guys are basically legendary. They are the fan favorite UK new metal band. Yeah. So,
I love the name too. That's a great name.
Yeah, it is. That's a great
album cover as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
All right, let's give it a whirl.
I already like it.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. It's kind of wild.
Vacant Stare were like legendary. I mean, they were. If you ask anyone on the UK scene, I mean, if you go into my group, everybody in my group's like a fanboy of Vacant Stare. I mean, they were huge. So, I mean, basically, how I discovered them was really quite cool because of my uncle is a music promoter. He's worked with loads of bands over the years. He was like friends with Lemmy back in the 70s and stuff like that. And he came and saw me in like late 98, early 99, and gave me a sampler CD of bands that played at a battle of the bands. And he said, this band were amazing. You'd like them. It's all that new metal stuff you're into. They had a DJ and that. And I played one track and they were really good. And then all of a sudden, other friends started talking about them, and I got to see them at a few like really small, low-key shows and stuff. And there was a real buzz about them right from the word go. I mean, and this was around about sort of like 98, 99 sort of time. And as the scene got bigger, you kept seeing these lads about, and it took a couple of years for the album to come out. Like, I don't think the album came out until like really late, like 2003 or something. But they were touring around on like the same like 2 demos for like 2 EPs for years, and they had some pretty big tours and stuff like that, and dropped some videos. But I mean, they're the real sort of fan favorites. Like, everybody wished Vacant Stare got bigger than they did. You know, I think a lot of us would have thought we would have liked Vacant Stare to have been our big sort of export rather than like Lost Profits, you know. I mean, they had a couple of singles. Head Start was their big single. Come Face Up was like the one that everyone dropped in the clubs and stuff and was on a lot of the samplers. But I mean, you don't really hear it much in Come Face Up, but the guy's actually got a really good singing voice. And yeah, I mean, so they got some singy tracks on there as well. But I mean, I asked a friend recently, like, what actually happened when they split, because it was just really bizarre. Like, there was so much hype around them. Like, the magazines got behind them, everybody got behind them. And I said to my friend, he was really friendly with him, I said, what actually happened? He says, they don't even know, really. So I think it was just one of those ones that just, like, you know, fizzled out. Maybe differences within the band, I'm not sure. But it's, yeah, they're very, very well loved and well respected in the UK scene. Probably the most loved UK new metal band, really.
I absolutely love that one too.
It's good. I mean, when I heard the vocals, the first thing the notes I have here is, holy shit, that sounds like VOD.
Yeah.
Because he does. He's got that rasp in his voice. Yeah. There's, I know we didn't get to it because again, everybody, we can't play the whole song, but there's a breakdown toward the end where I'm like, holy shit, you didn't hear a lot of those in new metal. You did.
Yeah.
I love how these two bands we just heard, like the drums are very good in both of them so far. Like the snares are poppy. I love that. Like, you don't really hear that anymore.
No, one thing I said a lot. I mean, I did say this in the last episode. I do think a lot more of our bands have got more of a hardcore edge to the new metal side of it than the American stuff. I mean, there are a few bands that are carbon copies of the US stuff, but a lot of it was definitely more hardcore tinged. And then if you notice a lot, if you go into like,
I would agree with
Europe,
that. Listen to all your playlists, Nick.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. There's a lot more hardcore sensibility in a lot of this stuff.
And then if you listen to like a lot of like European stuff from like say France and Spain, it's a lot more rappy. It's all a lot more rappy. So I think that's the way it moved around Europe, really. But yeah, so yeah, Vacant Stare, legends. And this Vindication is quite an easy album to get. I think it's on Spotify and Apple Music, this one. So you might be unlocked, Tim.
I'm gonna look right now.
All right, so let's bounce around. I want to grab this one because I think Tim might actually like this. This is another one that I flagged as really liking it. This is Kill to This. Yeah. The album is Deviate, and the song is The Flood.
Yeah, I've got a feeling you'll like this one. You found it.
Vindication, found it.
All right, check this one out. Yeah, I like this, but my notes were very, very stompy. I like how the vocals come in, but they're kind of growly and oddly delivered. You know what I mean? Like they're very unique.
They were a very unique band as well. I mean, they were the sort of band that one minute you'd see them supporting Megadeth, the next minute you'd see them supporting a new metal band. They were very sort of diverse. I mean, some of their stuff sounds very new metal. Some of their stuff sounds very industrial. Some of their stuff just sounds pretty sort of almost hair metal. They were quite a mixed band. I was never a huge fan of them, to be honest with you. I mean, they were always pretty good live, but I was never that into them. But I know they did well. I mean, they stuck around they've done a fair few albums, and I know that they went in. They did go into another band that got quite big, but I off the top of my head, I can't remember who it was they went into. But yeah, they've got a pretty big following through their like the catalog. Really, I've only got one of their albums.
It was pretty good, different. I mean, the growly vocals is what caught my ear. But yeah, this is some good stuff.
You definitely, I definitely see what you're saying about like the hardcore element, because that band right there has it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, all three of these are good so far.
All right, hopefully I'm going to keep my streak going. So this is the song that I think I listened to most out of all the songs that Nick sent us. This is a band called Phony. Did I say that right, Nick? Is it Phony?
Yeah, Phony, yeah, Phony.
Phony, Phony, and the song is RIUP.
Let me see you go back.
So one of the wildest things when you watch it on YouTube, right? It's a live video that they laid the studio music in. And when you see the live video, it is literally how every single band looked in the early aughts, right? Yeah. Everybody's got a t-shirt on. They have big jeans. There's the dude with long hair. There's the dreads. There's the kind of like the Pacific Sunwear sort of stuff. But that shit was good. And I will say I liked it. And I think one thing I've noticed, Nick, along with the hardcore influence in a lot of this stuff, because I think this is a blanket term, but techno, right? Techno was more acceptable across the pond in the UK and Europe than it was here. You see a much stronger influence. It's higher in the mix, more use of turntables than we saw in the States.
Absolutely.
And I thought a lot of these songs, it actually makes them sound better than they would be if they were just a straight up 4-piece, 5-piece.
You literally nailed that, because I was literally just going to bring that up. Like the elements of the scratching and it's very prevalent with the 4 songs. I'm really enjoying this stuff.
I mean, it was. I mean, obviously, our stuff was a lot more raw. I mean, obviously, we had a few big ones, but most of it wasn't as polished. So I think that's what adds it. But yeah, I mean, everybody did go like proper in with the decks. You know, it was definitely a lot noisier and a lot more in your face. And that's what I used to love so much about it. You know, I mean. And this is another reason why I think when everyone thinks, oh, new metal, you automatically think of all these like super polished, singy, radio-friendly tracks, and it wasn't. It was a proper little underground scene, you know. I mean, Phony were around for quite a while. They did 3 albums, and they did a live album DVD as well.
No shit,
everything.
So yeah.
So Nick, if I like that song, which album should I check out?
That's on Routine Irregular, which I believe is the first album. It's a promo copy I've got of it here. Yeah, I collect new metal albums, but I predominantly collect UK new metal albums, so I've got a lot of this stuff. But yeah, Phony were a good band. They were around a lot. I don't think they ever really got I don't think they really got the big push. I believe they did feature on the Visible Noise. Yeah. So basically we had a record label in London called Visible Noise Records. Now Visible Noise were the label that got Lost Prophets out. Bring Me the Horizon. So a lot of our big exports all went through Visible Noise. So yeah, Phony did do some stuff with them. They were definitely on the Visible Noise sampler. This thing is kind of legend. It's like kind of like a legendary sampler for UK bands of the era. They got them all on here. They all sort of started on this CD. But yeah, I mean, Phony were around for quite a while, and they were actually, I don't think I ever got to see them live, but they were a pretty well known band. They had quite a good following as well. So yeah, that was Phony.
I think they actually cut in front of this whole, you know how every tech company these days has their name misspelled, like it's purposely misspelled. This is probably the earliest reference I've seen of a band actually purposely.
Didn't George Michael do it? George Michael did it, didn't he? When they were trying to sue him, he had phony headphones in one of his music videos.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. That's kind of wild. All right, so let's bounce around to this one. This one I thought was super heavy. I'm curious to hear what Tim thinks. This is a band called One Dice, and the song is Life. So here we go.
Damn, it's cold down here.
I got the heating on.
I'm about to turn my fireplace on. Dry Kill Logic.
Kill Switch.
Yep.
Yeah,
Dude,
I like that.
Yeah,
That's heavy.
What are they
Right?
called again?
they're called One Dice.
One Dice.
One Dice, yeah. So they got there's the album Life, which has got a guy getting kicked in the balls. And then I've got their demo as well. They were from Bristol, so they're like more sort of going more into the West Country, so more down towards Wales. Like Bristol's like the closest city to Wales. There's a bridge that links England to Wales is in Bristol. So I mean, One Dice, so they're moving away from London sort of thing, but yeah, they were
Is that it?
band.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one.
Awesome.
Yeah. Again, another one that was definitely more on the hardcore side. But yeah, I mean, full on like brilliant band. There's actually, if you look around on YouTube, they did a Radio 1 session for the Radio 1 rock show. Yeah, it's really good listening to that. Like so hearing like them going brutal on like Radio 1 was like pretty epic.
That definitely reminded me of Dry Kill Logic.
Yeah, I get what you
really
mean,
enjoyed that, mate. Yeah, every band you've played so far has been good.
And I'm grabbing them. I have a whole slew that I tagged them. Like, I think these would be good listens. So either you and I are completely in tune or randomly Nick just built one hell of a list. But yeah, I mean, the entire Spotify list is 2 hours. There's 28 songs on it. And I got through a good, healthy chunk of it. Truth be told though, and I think you both would agree, after like an hour listening to nu metal, you're like, okay, time out. I gotta change gears. Put on Pink Destroyer. I gotta refresh my ears.
I don't know if you guys noticed on Facebook. Obviously, I used to DJ 20 years ago, and I've started DJing my own nu metal night again. And so for the first 2 weeks of January, I was getting every nu metal album I could possibly get ready for this DJ night that started last week. And honestly, I was new metaled out over the whole of New Year. It was just like one album after the next, trying to work out what to play, what I needed, downloading music left, right, and center, ripping music. And then last Saturday night, I did should have been a 5-hour set of new metal. I played for 8.5 hours.
Jesus.
Yeah,
that's a long time, man.
Yeah, at midnight we were supposed to finish. Well, I was supposed to start at 7, but I started at 5:30, and then we were going to end at midnight, and we carried on until 2 a.m. Just
how was the response, Nick?
Amazing, amazing. It was going to be a monthly night. They've now asked me to do it fortnightly. It was insane. It was brilliant. I mean, it was not the biggest venue. It was a nice small venue, but everyone just loved it. They just went crazy, and it was so much fun. Yeah, I loved it. It was like 1998 all over again.
Right.
And I got hammered because everybody was just giving me beer. Like everyone just like, oh yeah, thanks, play the stream. By the end of the night, I can't believe I was still standing. That much beer in me. But yeah, so I've got my own. So if anyone's listening and they're in the UK or coming to the UK, ILIS every 2 weeks in Blackpool, in England, at the Scream and Shake Horror Bar. I'm DJing new metal all night long.
That is wild. The Renaissance, it's here. It's definitely here.
It's coming back, man. It's coming back. I mean, someone pointed out to me the other day that Metal Hammer are basically mirroring my posts. So everything I post about new metal either on my personal page or in my new metal group, 2 days later, Metal Hammer are sharing an article about it.
Yeah, and you should hit them up and say you noticed what they're doing, and they should be crediting you.
Yeah, one of their editors is in our group. So, I mean, some of the articles they're sharing are older articles that marry up to stuff I've been saying, but it's still the fact that they're sharing stuff every soon as I say it. It is a bit spooky.
Right? It's like, get your own content. Now that's cool though that like someone like that is noticing that though, because you never know in the future that could help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it really is. I mean, obviously I'm working on a documentary, so I've been doing a lot of research, and like it really is coming back. Like it really is coming back. I mean, the amount of bands that are bringing these influences. I mean, when you've got big bands at the moment like Code Orange switching to new metal,
Code Orange. Somebody told me, Nick, they should be called Code Orange Man 5000. And I went, that's not too far of a reach.
Who said that?
It was somebody on Facebook commented on one of my posts.
That's amazing.
They were like Code Orange Man 5000.
Yeah, but it's definitely come out. I mean, we've got a good scene over here. I mean, we've got bands.
So funny.
We've got obviously Death Blooms. We've got Wargasm. There's a lot of new metal coming out over here. Then you've got stuff like, have you guys heard Bloodywood from India?
No,
I heard them the other day. That was some wild shit.
No, amazing. I've never heard that.
Oh mate, you've got to
listen to Bloodywood. Is that
Bloodywood? Yeah, they sound like Indian soulfly with a rapper. They're amazing. They've got like sitars and stuff, and they sound like Soulfly.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
Jay, they just put something out recently.
They put a new track out yesterday.
Yeah. I seen that in my new release list.
Listen to the last track from a couple of months ago called Gadar. That's the best track done so far. But they're insane.
There's a band out, I think maybe it's Iraq or Iran. Confess.
Yes. Confess. Yeah.
We'll have to check them out.
I think it's Iraq or something, right, Jay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're Iran. They were from Tehran, and now they're in like Stockholm or something. It's kind of
nice.
wild.
We should get them on.
You just brought up Death Blooms, Nick. Tim and I were talking about we got a list going of bands like Death Blooms and Dream Eater, and like from the Paris is 1056. Like there's a lot of bands who have that new metal influence, but they're definitively not playing new metal. And Tim and I were like, we could easily get an Blood Youth. And so a lot of the stuff coming out of Australia, right? We can get a whole episode out of that stuff. There's a lot that has that wears that influence on its sleeve, and they're not embarrassed about it. Awesome.
I mean, and then obviously look at bands that are really embracing it, like Tetrarch and Tyler. I mean, they're really embracing it.
Who else do we have here from the UK? Loathe, which I love.
Death Blooms was in my top 10 of the year.
Death Blooms, Black Coast.
Yeah.
That Black Coast album is great. What else do I got here? Void of Vision and Banks Arcade from Australia. Conform. There's a lot. There's a whole lot. All right, well, let's get back to the obscure stuff. So here's another one that I grabbed that I really enjoyed. This band is called this was called Jor. Jor. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
And the album name is Blunt. This song is called Cuttin'. So here we go. I got to be honest with you. The stop starts at first threw me off. It was, that stop and that held like a 3 count before they go. I was like, what? And I like switched to Spotify. I'm like, did I break my shit? Like, what's going on? Then they went, the music came back and it was like, not bad at all. That is what with my notes here. I said the stop starts are jarring, but they make the music stand out. And that the whole song it's heavier than most of the stuff we listen to.
Yeah, I when they back in the day, I remember the name all the time, and it's only been like the last sort of year that I've rediscovered them or discovered them properly, and I'm in love with them. At the moment, they're probably like my most listened to band on Spotify. Like I listen to this album pretty much daily at the moment. I mean, there are better tracks on the album, but when I threw this initial list together, that was the one I was like digging the most. But I mean, they were from Oxford, so posh city, but really, really cool band. The way I describe him is Snot doing hardcore, because he definitely sounds a bit Lynn Stratey in his vocals. But what makes us laugh is me and a few other friends have got hold of this CD, and they've all got the same sticker on it, and this sticker is brilliant. It says, Jaw, if there's one English band who can break the stranglehold the Americans have on nu metal, it's Jaw. Oxford has unleashed a monster. Godzilla in a Slipknot shirt. Ian Glasper, Terrorizer. So that's Ian Glasper, who writes for Terrorizer, and he's also the drummer in British hardcore band Stamping Ground.
Oh, love Stamping Ground.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's what he wrote. But every copy of the album has this sticker on it.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
I not to cut into that, but I think that Stamping Ground record with what Officer Down on it is one of the best hardcore records ever made.
They're just one of the best hardcore bands ever made.
Absolutely. Incredible band.
I mean, like you guys, I mean, I love my New York hardcore, but I mean, we've got Knuckle Dust and we've got Stamping Ground. So it's just like
what's the Cold Hard Truth coming out of the UK? That is straight up like fucking goon music, and I love it. Like I literally love it. And I think we talked about this, Nick. My favorite was always the early Your Demise stuff, back when they were doing hardcore, not before they went to like pop punk, like whatever they did when they replaced George. But those first couple albums are just fucking brutally aggressive.
They are good, man.
I mean, we could do a whole nother episode on British hardcore, because we had some sick stuff.
We should.
We definitely should. We definitely should. All right, let's try this. I'm curious to hear what Nick's thoughts are on this band and the story behind it, because my notes, all I wrote is a smiley face and this is different. So this band is Defenestration. The album is 1 Inch God, and the song name is Stitch. So let's give this a listen.
I love
Did
that.
we even hear a scream? Did we get to our screaming bit?
Oh
yet?
no, I don't think we did. Hold on, let me back it up. So talk to us about this band, Nick. 'Cause
Right.
They were kind of different, but like Tim said, it
love that.
enjoyable.
Right. They were.
Who are they again?
They're
they're-
called Defenestration.
Defenestration?
Defenestration, yeah.
How do you spell that?
I'll spell it for you in a sec. So basically, they were pretty tipped to, they had a lot of press behind them and stuff like that. We used to have some channels, TV channels. We had P-Rock and we had Scuzz. And they catered for like a lot of British punk and metal stuff. And their video was on rotation on there a lot.
Found it.
Yeah. To a lot of us, they were a bit of a joke. They weren't. I was never that big a fan. A lot of my friends weren't. They got on some pretty big bills. I believe they played the UK leg of Tattoo the Planet. They opened that. They played Reading Festival. I think they might have played Download. They got into some pretty big places. But the music video for Stitch is literally like someone's college project. It's just like a bunch of like new metal kids playing in the park, and it's just like.
So, but now that you mentioned that, Nick, I can hear if there's a band that we've played so far that sounds like it was put together truly to succeed in new metal, right?
Yeah.
And it had all the backing like label guys behind it saying, "We need a female singer. We need this. We need this." This is probably most emblematic of that type of scenario.
I mean, they had their fans. I mean, I played Stitch on Saturday night, and there were some people dancing to it. I was never really a big fan. They did two albums. Now, if you go onto Spotify, it's got these two albums, but I think it must be another band it's got muddled up with. There's like a full-on black metal band with the same name, but listed as their albums. So unless they got rid of there and became a black metal band later in life, I'm not sure. But
I literally just found that as I was searching for it.
I mean, they are what they are. Some people like them. They were never really for me. They were a bit of a a joke. Unfortunately, both of our big-ish female-fronted new metal bands weren't great.
Who was the other one, Nick?
Sugar Coma.
Did I get to that? I don't think I got to, no, that was further down on the list. I never got to that one.
Sugar Coma, they got big because they did a cover of Britney Spears' Crazy.
Okay. They went that way. Okay.
Yeah. But they were a little bit stronger than Defenestration. They toured with like My Ruin.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, they were all right, but yeah, I was never really into either of them, to be honest with you.
My Ruin, that's Terry B, right?
Terry
Manhole,
B,
Tour Satana. Okay.
Yeah. She was really, all of her bands have always done really well in England. They've always had a massive British following. So she used, back in the day, she'd always be over like all the time. Like, you know, 1 minute she was over with Manhole, then the next year she's back with Tour Satana, then 2 years after that she's back with My Ruin for a few years. And my friend Chris, we became good friends with her and kept going on tour with her. Every time she came over, she'd take him on tour, which was quite cool.
That's cool. I like Manhole. Yeah. I saw them open for a Typo Negative. All Is Not Well. Yeah, they opened the October Rust tour, and they were pretty good. Like, I mean, she's got a voice and she's got stage presence.
I used to like Tour Satana. I mean, I saw Tour Satana with Will Haven.
And
that's
kind of jarring. Okay.
Yeah.
Was that the girl who had like really bad asthma?
No, you're thinking of Karen Crisis.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I knew it was along them lines.
Yeah, no, the woman from Defenestration, she kind of sounds like her at certain points when she screams, but the chick from Crisis, you can tell she can't breathe because she's howling, and it's like, man, somebody get the nebulizer. This is not going to be a good look.
Her fucking mic stand has a built-in fucking inhaler on it.
Ventolin sprayer.
It's the girl from Walls of Jericho that I think has got the best.
Oh,
she's a fucking awesome.
Candace,
yeah. And as an added bonus, she could do a clean and jerk and pull my arms off at the same time and then beat me to death with it, which is kind of impressive. Man, I would not want to fuck with her in this dark alley. Not at all. All right, so let's go. I think this band probably was fairly big based upon the sound of what I liked. This is a band called Kilkus.
Yeah.
The album is Pattern of Self-Design, and the song is AOC. Here we go. So were they big, Nick?
They were fairly big. I mean, they were another one that were like featured in like Visible Noise. They had a bit of press with them, and they did do a few big tours and support acts. They were very new metal by numbers, especially if you watch the video for that track as well. I mean, they looked stereotypical new metal, but it was all their stuff was good and people liked them. Like, I don't think I ever heard anyone ever say a bad word about them, but no one was like, "Oh, Kilkus is my favorite band."
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they were. I mean, the album itself. I mean, I've listened to the album a few times. It's a pretty solid album. And they say, yeah, they did quite well. I mean, they say because they were part of that Visible Noise bracket. So anyone that sort of featured on that, they were tipped to go places. So yeah, I mean, they did do some pretty big support slots in London and stuff, and a few tours and that. But I do remember them fizzling out fairly quickly. But I think they did do 2 or 3 albums. But yeah, they were a fun band for what they were.
I've
Okay.
surprisingly liked every single one of these bands you've played.
I really can't believe that. I can't believe I haven't played a dud yet. kind of surprised. Let's try this one. I have my notes here said that the vocals on this are very early Chimera. So Kim, listen for that and tell me if I'm crazy. And I really enjoyed this. This is Stoopy.
Did you just call me Kim?
I said Tim. I'm not gonna call you Kim. Jesus. She gets into new metal. My life is over. So this is Stoopy with off of Unspoken Word. This is Breathe. Tim, did I nail it with the early Chimera vocals?
You nailed it with early Chimera sounding.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that would have been on their first EP.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, I mean, they were again like there used to be every year. There used to be like a festival just outside London in a place called Uxbridge. It was called Uxfest, and it was basically like in the grounds of a youth centre. And it was all in the car park and had big lorries outside. And a lot of these bands used to like always be like on those bills. So bands like Jaw, Kilkus, but then they also had bands like Lost Prophets and stuff to play it as well. So like it was a big fest. But Stoopy were always the sort of band you find on those sort of bills, you know, at Uxfest and similar events like that. But yeah, I mean, I remember them back in the day. And I remember some people being pretty into them, but at the time, I think I only ever heard like 1 or 2 tracks. It's only been recently I got the album. And I must admit, listening to them after all these years, the first time I heard the vocals, I was like, oh yeah, I don't remember them being like that. But then it grows on you. That vocal does really grow on you. And it's a really enjoyable album. I've listened to it a fair few times on Spoken Word. It's out on Loudspeaker or another label that put out quite a lot of the British new metal stuff. But yeah, they're a good band, Stoopy. Yeah,
cool. So Nick, so I played almost a dozen tracks. What have I not played yet that you think? Okay, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So Miocene, right. So Miocene were a very, very cult band in London. Like in the early days, they were a real cult band. Maybe I picked the wrong track, but I think if you dig deeper into Miocene, I got a feeling you'll be really into them because they are basically the inventors of prog new metal. They are so Tool influenced, it's ridiculous. And their later albums are just full on prog albums, like proper out there. But no, Miocene were a huge band on the underground scene.
All right, let's play what we got here. So we got this is Miocene off of Refining Refining the Theory. This is Fits Like That. Here we go. Yeah.
tear it all down. I am the cancer that you spawn, who misfed, misformed. I am the hate that you deny. Put my head back like the curtain side. Hold your reeling head from all these reeling to the station high. She knows my name. Her name is she. It grows again from within me. Leave your heart behind you. Leave your soul behind you. Leave your heart, leave your mind. 'Cause you are me where we go. Then I say you're rock stars when you're coming for me. What don't they try to lie? Come around, I'll put your back 'cause you're showing it up. What? Maybe you're a fucking bitch. I'm like that. Kick your back like a fish. Still I saw you disease. God, nothing's down. Check it like that. It's up to fail into my sound. Now it all fits like that.
Now that you said it, I definitely hear the Tool influence.
Yeah, if you listen to their later albums, it's proper Tooly. But I mean, like Myosine were huge. They were huge on an underground level. They were like in London, like all of the guys in other bands would wear Myosine t-shirts. Like the cool guys were into Myosine. And then they for a few years they were like probably like the biggest underground London band. Other than OMS, obviously OMS were the kings of it all, but other than them, I'd say Myosine were like the next biggest. And then eventually they got put on a Kerrang CD, and then they got known around the rest of the country after that. But they still got a following. They split up years ago, but they still got a following to this day. They still keep their Facebook page pretty active. Ben, the lead singer's in my metal group as well. But yeah, they were just a really iconic band for anyone that was into it in the early days and around London. Myosine were like the big name, you know. You have to go and see Myosine because, but I mean, yeah, like I said, they were proggy, and I think that they were like the inventors of the pioneers of prog nu metal. But yeah, that's refining the theory. But yeah, definitely check out the other two albums. They're both on Spotify. One of them's really out there, and then the other one's just exactly as you imagine it, like kind of real tooly sort of metal. Yeah, that's Myosine, great band.
Cool. What else, Nick? What else what else have we played yet?
Right, okay. Landmine Spring is another one I'd highly recommend. They're on the Spotify list.
Okay, we could do that one.
Yeah.
Landmine Spring. This is off of Elephantine. This is Maggots.
Yeah.
That's not bad. My notes here were is that Marilyn Manson fronting a nu metal band? Not bad though. Not bad.
They're pretty cool. They did two albums, Elephantine, and they did this one as well. I can't remember the name of that one, but yeah, two albums. Pretty cool. Another one that was on loudspeaker. Again, weren't super huge, but they were sort of in that crowd with like Jaw and Stoopy and Cynical Smile and those sort of bands. But yeah, I mean, they had a pretty good following, and the albums are both pretty solid albums, pretty good fun. Again, get a bit hardcore in places. The other one I'm going to recommend now, changing it up completely, because I mentioned this to you last time. This was one of our biggest, like most commercial nu metal bands that I'm shocked never got big in the States. So In Me.
In
Me. So this is radio nu metal.
Okay, so this is Overgrown Eden, right?
Yeah, that's the album. Yeah, and the tracks are Underdose.
All right, let's give it. I didn't get a chance to listen to this one. I have a note here.
So these guys were like huge. They're still going now, but they were teenagers then. They're now big old bald men. Yeah, this is like radio polished nu metal. So yeah.
Okay. Let's give it a go.
Inside, all you do is try to leave me behind. I don't know what to do, something's killing me. I don't know how to turn you on. All you do is try to lead me on. I don't know what to do, something here is telling me to kill you. It's all gone wrong, it's all gone wrong. It's for the perfect fumes. It's all gone wrong, it's all gone wrong. I don't know how to lead this life. All I have is maybe suicide. I don't know what to do, something's killing me. I don't know how to reach the top. All you do is try to scrape me up. I don't know what to do, something here is telling me to kill you. It's all gone wrong, it's all gone wrong. It's for the perfect fumes.
That is definitely radio friendly nu metal.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, they're a good band. They are. I mean, they were terrific live. I saw them live a couple of times, and they were really good live. But yeah, it's proper, radio friendly nu metal, radio rock, new rock, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, they had a big following. They did quite a lot for the scene. They were. They are what they are. They were never a band that anyone ever slagged off, because everyone did kind of like them. They were catchy, and they proper had the image as well. It really worked. They were like young teenage guys. You look at them now, and they're all old and bald. It's really quite amusing.
As most nostalgia bands look lately. Yeah.
But no, they were good for the time. They did. I think the third album is really good. The one with the scarecrow on the front cover. They've been consistently doing albums since then. They've never given up. They've just kept going. So
let me ask you this, Nick, because it just popped into my head while we were listening. You talked about DJing for 8 hours at a clip, right? And now you're going to do it every fortnight. How do you not burn yourself out? Like, do you constantly keep track of what you played last time and say, okay, this time I want to do more aggressive, or this time
the way I try and do it.
How does that work?
So what for the first hour or so, I just keep it. I was playing for the first hour. I was playing a lot of new stuff, even though I build it as a nostalgic night of predominantly just 90s and early 2000s. I for the first hour or so, I played a bit of new stuff. Obviously, the problem is you've got like 6 bands that you've got to pretty much play every hour. You've got to play one. You got to play one Bizkit, one Limp Bizkit, one Linkin Park, one Slipknot, one System of a Down, one Korn, sort of every hour, because there's such a vast catalogue to get through, and everybody wants to hear that. So it's trying to mix that in with some of the more unique and obscure stuff. What I got asked for the most was Mushroom Head. I had about 7 different people ask me for, and I can, to be honest, I like Mushroom Head, but I can think of 3 songs that are worth playing in a club. You know, like Solitaire, Unraveling, Sun Doesn't Rise Anymore, and QWERTY are probably about the only three I would think are really club worthy. Later in the night, early in the night, that's fine, but when it's packed, that's when I could play that. Actually, I didn't think of that one, but I mean, you know, when it's packed, you've really got to try and keep the big numbers, and someone will come wandering up to you going, "Oh, can you play this off the first album?" You know, I'm like, no, not really, because I've got to try and balance it out.
Right.
You know, I mean, I do dip into like a little bit outside nu metal as well. You know, I obviously played some Marilyn Manson, and I played more of the less nu metal album Fear Factories. But yeah, so I've been playing like stuff like Replica and stuff like that as well, rather than just playing like Digimortal all night long or Obsolete all night long. I played like Davidian by Machine Head and things like that.
Both. Sorry, cat jumps on the keyboard.
I'm DJing now. So yeah, you know, it's
so you can play some of those by Davidian, by Replica, Nick. You can play some of like the nu metal adjacent stuff, right?
And keeping it the way like rock clubs were back in the 90s. You know, you would have heard that. You know, obviously played a bit of Rage as well. But I mean, in an ideal world, I like to keep it all fully new all night, but you got to mix it up a little bit. You have to.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, I at one point I was just so sick of the nu metal sound. I just thought, right, I'm putting Lunchbox by Marilyn Manson on, because I love that track. So I just
that first album is grossly
amazing.
Underrated.
Yeah,
grossly underrated.
Yeah,
very underrated.
I remember in college they let me 2 weeks in a row. They let me DJ the first hour of a frat party. And I played like, it was all like Pitch Shifter and like techno stuff. There was like a Korn remix and there was a Chaos AD remix. And like halfway through the second week, they all came down like, no, you're never doing this again. We're never letting you do this again. And I'm like, why? And they said, look around the basement. And I looked around. It was all dudes. They're like, what are you trying to do with our parties? I'm like, yo, I didn't know. So like, yeah, nope, that was that.
Weirdly, right? There was more girls there on Saturday night.
That's kind of wild.
See, the problem I had is back in the day when I used to do it, it was a rock night and rock and metal night. So I would play like, you know, an hour of nu metal. I'd play an hour of punk and ska. I'd play an hour of cheese, an hour of like industrial. Whereas this, I was limited just to that bubble, really, of just trying to keep it new. You know, I mean, in the Nu Metal Forever group, I posted in there about it, and everyone was praising me. And then I had some guy going completely sick at me because I'd put Fear Factory and Soulfly on the poster. I'm like, I'm not saying they're nu metal. I'm just saying they fit that bracket. And this guy's going, well, you can't do that. It's false advertising. And all these people are jumping on this guy and having a go at him. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to post about a positive event here. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I mean, this guy was like, you know, in the States, he wasn't even coming to the event anyway. So I'm like, well, why is he? Like,
oh, it's of course it's some jackass from the States. Of course. Where do you think he's from, Tim? Where do you think he's from? LA?
Yeah,
Cleveland. He was somewhere in California. Yeah.
Yep.
And,
LA.
And when I looked at his picture, he had his picture of his truck near an American football goalpost, and was like,
oh yeah. Stereotypes are funny because they're true most of the time. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, like, so our scene was insane.
So when I will tell you this though, Nick, when you sent your playlist over, I looked at, and two of the bands that I knew already. The first was Raging Speedhorn, which I think we actually played the last time we did an international nu metal episode.
We did,
and Earth Tone 9, same thing. And I remember seeing them. You know, we talked about. I used to go to get Metal Hammer every 6 weeks. I would go to Barnes and Noble and pick it up. And Earth Tone 9, 1 Minute Silence, Linnea 77, Raging Speedhorn, they were all over that stuff.
Yeah.
And I never checked it out back in the day, but that first Earth Tone 9 album is great. Like, it's really great.
Yeah.
They're active now, right? And
they're still going.
Active in the sense, Nick, that I see them post stuff on Instagram. Yeah. They just did a vinyl release of the one album.
They've been recently touring. Raging Speedhorn is still going as well. Very different sound. You see, I mean, like the other band that I didn't talk about because they're not technically new metal, but they were a big part of our scene. Was Sixth. Sixth were like
Was that SIKTH,
SIK,
right?
yeah. You probably know those guys. They're probably like one of the biggest, this whole gent thing, all that. I mean, and they played with all these bands. I mean, another band on the list that we didn't get to, PDHM. Now PDHM are more a hardcore band, but they had new metal bits to them, and they played it within the new metal scene. They supported everybody. I mean, they toured with Stuck Mojo. They played in LA. I mean, PHM were another real legendary band from that era. But they used to do like crazy like gig swaps with Sixth, and the shows used to go ballistic. I mean, people in my group talk about how legendary these gigs they used to do together were, because it was just like insanity. I mean, did I mention last time about when 1 Minute Silence got banned from playing in London?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it was such a mad time back then. It really was. But I mean, through this group we're doing, I mean, everybody's like, reuniting. I mean, we've got so many members from the bands back then in the group. Like,
that's kind of wild.
Yeah,
it's kind of wild.
Mass from 1 Minute Silence is in our group. He's actually, I think he's in your group now as well. I think he joined your group.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because I told him I was going to post his new track in your group, and I'm pretty sure I saw his name pop up. So yeah, I mean, like, it was some wild times. The scene was brilliant, and this is why, I mean, I'm making this documentary at the moment, and it's focusing on what it was like, the scene was like over here. Because it was unique. It did kind of mirror the punk scene and mirror like the sort of the hardcore scene you had in the States, like sort of the city, like New York hardcore and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of mirrored that. There was this following around the cities for these bands. We would go to these random pubs in the middle of nowhere to watch these bands. And it was a strong following, and it was definitely something unique. Whereas when a lot of people look at new metal, they do think more of the radio friendly side of it. But there was, a good community, and people remain friends for 25 years through this community that stemmed in the mid-90s to early 2000s. So, it was a DIY side to it, just like in punk rock. These bands would just go out to do anything to play these shows. It didn't matter. You just wanted to go out and be heard. Whereas again, like new metal isn't looked at. People don't look at it like that. People just think new metal, and they think your Ozfest, they think your Linkin Parks and your Corns, and there was this great scene. And I don't know if it was the same in the States, because obviously it's so vast.
No, and I was going to say that's I think the big differentiator. And Tim, let me know if you agree, because it's an island. Right, they were able to have a vibrant scene, a lot of bands bouncing off each other and playing with each other. Whereas the States is so expansive. Like you could have a band get big in New York and never play LA.
Yeah,
and people don't realize how big the country is, right? And while that's cool in the sense you have all these little like Slipknot from Iowa and Incubus and System of a Down from California and Snot from California and Korn from Bakersfield, which is not anywhere near LA. It's like meth country, right? Like and all these different bands. It's great because you have all these different things. Limp Bizkit from Florida. You have all these different things popping up all over, but there's no coherence like there sounds like there was in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I moved on from after starting in new metal. I moved on and became like a punk promoter for years, and I was doing punk shows every week, punk hardcore and ska and stuff like that. And the scene is obviously as punk scenes always have been. It's always been very DIY. But I mean, we used to set up tours all around the country, all around Ireland. We'd bring American bands over. They'd fly in over just on like a normal sort of flight. Weren't over there to make money, and they just like jump in the back of someone's car and just tour the country, because that's the great thing about living in a country so small. Everything else about it is crap, but the fact that we live in a country. So yeah, it was good. And then looking back and doing all this research, the new metal scene was just like that. What we were touring around in cars, and and doing gig swaps, and it did become what it is. And I mean, we had a few exports. But there was such a wealth of it. I mean, in my group, I think our list's over 80 or 90 bands now. It's just fucking insane.
That's awesome.
The other day I discovered this CD, which Metal Hammer did in 2001, and it was the best British unsigned band. And it's just literally like about 20 unsigned, pretty much all new metal bands, and found some gems on there. And it's like, so we're doing a documentary, and then me and a friend are also trying to like compile like a book, a guide to all of the British new metal bands. Because as I say, there's just so many now, and it's just trying to find them all, and going through Discogs and that. People have been sending me stuff. I've got some like demos with some like really obscure bands coming my way. But it's become like a nice little community we've got over on Facebook, and everyone's just like talking so many memories.
Right, they're geeked on. So let's we're running up on time, Nick. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I do want to ask you. Let's talk a little bit about the documentary.
Yeah. So basically, last time I spoke to you guys, I was talking about, obviously I've got background in making film, wanting to make a documentary on nu metal, but obviously flying out to the States and doing a whole big nu metal documentary was a bit out there. So I spoke to some producer friends. They gave me a few pointers, talking to a production company about possibly helping me with it, but if not, doing it on my own. And I'm going to basically tell my personal story about how I found that scene as a teenager. And then from that personal story, then branch out into what we had over here, this underground nu metal community.
Cool.
And then it's my search to see if this nu metal scene still exists. So it then follows me looking into new bands and where it's going. So yeah, I've been working on that, and I've just been like researching nu metal like left, right, and center. I've kind of like taken a week off of it this week. I've been faffing around with computers this week because for the last 6 weeks, all I've done every day is just
so you've done
all night long is just like watching interviews, reading stuff, listening to albums, going through like gig listings. I've got given a bag of 200 Kerrang and Metal Hammer sampler CDs.
Oh wow,
to go through.
That's a lot, dude. That's a lot.
Yeah, and rock sound mainly. So I found like loads of obscure bands on there. Found some obscure tracks. Like I found Pitch Shifter covering XTC on one of them.
What song?
It's got a guy's name.
Making Plans for Nigel?
Yeah, Making Plans for Nigel.
Oh, you gotta rip that and send that to me, Nick. That's gotta be insane.
Yeah, it is on YouTube. There is actually a video for it on YouTube, but it was only ever released on that one Metal Hammer CD. Yeah. I mean, I found some all sorts of like strange shit on these CDs. I've been going through the book that you guys recommended to me. So I've been going through that. And that's been like jogging my memories. I've been going through old gig listings, festival listings, like just to try and find as many British bands that played nu metal as we can, no matter how big, small, or obscure. I just want to find them all. And then we're going to write through all the research I've done. Me, my friend Fway, and we're hoping to get our friend Paul involved as well. We're going to do like a British nu metal guidebook, which we can release as one thing, but it's also going to really help me with the documentary at the same time. Right. So that's why I want to get that done. Finding like I found loads of people that already want to talk to me about it. So we're doing really well. It's working out now. Like I need to get a few big names in, so it's researching what bands are coming over from the States this year to see if I can try and get interviews with them. I found out that Corey Taylor's doing a convention appearance down the road, and one of my close friends, an actor, close friend of mine, is a guest at the same convention. So I'm gonna see if he can sweet talk him for me.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So
and then tell him to come on here.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I'm really good friends with Ari that plays Jason in Friday the 13th.
Wow.
In the first, yeah, because me and him used to do conventions together for when I was making horror films, and I've booked him a gig the night before the convention. So I'm gonna, I scratch your
That's
back.
cool.
Can you scratch mine? Can you get can you get me in the vicinity of Corey Taylor for 15 minutes? So but you know, so yeah, I've got some plans. Like the festival lineup's looking good this year. Downloads got quite a few new metal bands playing.
Cool.
So yeah, so the plan is just to attack it like that, but it's just research like crazy at the moment. Everyone's calling me New Metal Nick now.
Yeah, there you go.
Because obviously I'm doing this new metal night, I'm researching this new metal documentary, I'm collecting it. I started doing new metal YouTube videos, and yeah, I've kind of just like become consumed by new metal all of a sudden. At 43
awesome.
years of age. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, better late than never, right? Better late than never. I mean,
yeah, really, you've got to do something to keep me occupied.
Not all of us are lucky enough to dig out the stuff that we were into in our 20s and then turn it into something that kind of is really fun.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's just like, you know, living life. I mean, I say my life changed last year, so just like embracing it, really, grabbing it by the balls and just getting back into all this stuff. But I mean, yeah, so much fun. It's such like an interesting genre to look into, because I say it was a movement. It did especially in our case,
right,
follow punk rock more than it did, you know. It wasn't all about just like radio and and metal getting popular. There was definitely a movement that was quite unique. So there's lots of stories to be told there.
That's awesome. We look forward to having you back on. Well, we're running out of time, so I want to, on behalf of Tim, myself, Nick, we want to thank you again for coming on. We're sure this is the second time we've had you on, and we're sure it's the second of many. Right,
yeah.
we look forward to having you back on again.
I'm always happy to be with you guys. I'm really enjoying coming on.
Awesome. On behalf of Nick, Tim, and myself, I want to thank all of you watchers, all you listeners tuning in. Find us on Instagram, find us on Twitter. You know all the stuff. It's in the show links. The playlist that Nick made for us, we are going to put in this episode's show links. So please give them a listen, check some of that stuff out, and hop into our Facebook group or hop into New Metal Reddit and talk about stuff that you found, because they're always looking for kind of crazy, obscure stuff. So I want to thank
my New Metal group as well.
Oh yeah, and Nick, what's the title of that?
UK New Metal.
UK New Metal. So
UK New Metal 90s to 2000s, but
we'll throw a link to that. Yeah. We'll throw a link to that as well. So if you're coming across the pond, if you're from Europe, check out Nick's group as well, because like you said, there's a lot of people from bands there. You might run into somebody you knew at a show. So once again, on behalf of Nick, Tim, myself, I want to thank all of you tuning in. And until next time, New Breed says cheers.
Cheers.